This Lent, our family has done a lot of talking about listening and how deep listening might help us create a clean heart for ourselves. Right now in this time, with all the division that we have around us, whether it's in our house, in community, on TV, one of the best ways that we can move forward and find ourselves in a more united place is by listening to one another. So we wanted to invite you into our house, where we try to do a lot of listening to each other. Making an effort to listen with one another creates an energy, and when we do it well, it enhances our presence. It can impact all dimensions of living, and listening to ourselves is just as important so that we can understand who we are. So what do you guys think? What do you think about listening?
I think we come into conversations with our outside perspective and views on the world, and we kind of already know what we want to get out of the conversation. And it's important to go into a conversation and listen without judging, without having these preconceived ideas, in order to truly grasp what the other person is saying.
When we go into a conversation, we always think about what we want. We're clouded by our own perspectives and our own opinions that we don't see everything else. And then we make all these actions based upon what we think, and we probably make smarter choices if we looked around us, opened our eyes, and viewed everything instead of just one thing.
So listening for me, when you ask that question, I come up with a few different thoughts. The first thought that I have is oftentimes we choose not to listen. We just engage in the conversation, and it's just kind of conversational back and forth. Or as my kiddos are describing, we begin to listen with our own kind of view of the world, and that's not necessarily in service to the person that we're talking to. So if we can go into a conversation with the intent of just really trying to understand what their needs are, sure, we can offer advice or support and be empathetic, but ultimately it's about making that connection with that other person and working through whatever the topic is or whatever the conversation piece is. If we could do that better with one another, I truly believe that the world would be a better place. It's not easy, but it's something that we should strive for.
So with just a few good listeners in our lives, your lives, what are some characteristics that describe good listening?
So when you asked about a trait or a characteristic, I would say what comes to mind is curiosity. And so when you go into a conversation with somebody, really be present and ask questions along their line of thought so that you can just better understand. And that starts with being curious as you go into the conversation.
They have to have patience to listen to what you want to say.
In school, we've actually talked about this. There's such a thing as active listening. It happens when you're looking the person in the eye when they're talking. You're not thinking about other stuff. You're trying to really relate to them and not interrupting when they're talking. And then afterwards, since you're not going into this conversation with judgment, you can fully make your decisions, your ideas regarding what they just said, and you can respond, but not while they're talking. You don't create your ideas until they're finished.
Quick final thought on my end. The concept of listening or more specific, deep listening, while it is in service to the person you're talking to, let's not lose sight that it can definitely positively impact your own self-being. So the more you can connect with others, it's a very rich life if you're able to do that.
Thank you for listening. We hope you liked the video.
Comment below what you think is a good listener.